Hello there. My name is Jason Perkins, and I'd like to welcome you to another episode in the Georgia Workers' Compensation video series. I'm an attorney who specializes in Georgia workers' compensation cases. I created this series of videos because I wanted to provide people who've been injured at work with helpful information about Georgia's workers' compensation law, the benefits available to them under workers' compensation, and the rules of Georgia workers' compensation. Today, I want to talk to you about a specific benefit available under Georgia's workers' compensation law, and that's permanent partial disability benefits. Specifically, I want to talk to you about permanent partial disability ratings for shoulder injuries. Now, first, the question is, what is a permanent partial disability rating? A permanent partial disability rating is something that you receive if you have a permanent loss of function as a result of an injury at work. So it's kind of like what it sounds like. I mean, it talks about permanent disability, and you receive it if you have a permanent impairment as a result of your injury. So this means that, first of all, you must have an impairment or a limitation, loss of function of some kind, and it also means that that impairment must be permanent. So not all people receive permanent partial disability ratings if they have a workers' compensation case. If they completely recover from their injury, then they may not receive a permanent partial disability rating. The next question is, how does your doctor determine what permanent partial disability rating you have? And the first thing to understand is it is a doctor who does determine the permanent partial disability rating. But Georgia law requires doctors to use the American Medical Association's Guides to the Evaluation of Permanent Impairment when they're determining that rating. That's a book, and doctors are required to use the 5th edition of that book. I've actually got a copy of that book right here. As you can see, it's a big, thick green book. It's many pages, and it's a book that attempts to determine any sort of impairment you might have as a result of any sort of injury. The book's divided into chapters, and chapter 16 is the chapter that talks about the upper extremities. If you have a shoulder injury, that is the chapter that the doctor is going to be using to determine what sort of permanent partial disability rating you have. And specifically, and this chapter is about 90 pages long, the doctor is going to probably measure things like your strength and range of motion to determine what sort of impairment you have. Over here on 475, it talks specifically about shoulder flexion and extension. The doctor may measure that as well as your shoulder abduction and adduction, and your strength. And that's going to often help the doctor determine what sort of permanent partial disability rating you have if you suffer from a shoulder injury. So the doctor uses that book and will give you a rating. You might receive something like a 12% permanent partial disability rating to your upper extremity. Or you might receive something like an 8% permanent partial disability rating to your body as a whole. So what does that permanent partial disability rating mean? In other words, doctor gave you a rating, so what? Well, that rating actually converts to permanent partial disability benefits. Those are one of the benefits that you can receive under Georgia workers' compensation law. So the first thing that you need to understand about what that rating means is that each part of your body entitles you to a certain number of weeks of permanent partial disability benefits. In Georgia, it's a little bit strange. Your whole body is worth 300 weeks of permanent partial disability benefits. But your upper extremity, your arm, is worth 225 weeks of permanent partial disability benefits. So what that means is if you had a 100% loss of your arm, if you had an injury where your whole arm got cut off, you had a 100% rating, you received 225 weeks of permanent partial disability benefits. Now, most people don't lose their whole arm. They lose a percentage of use of their arm. So if you had a 10% permanent partial disability rating to your upper extremity, then you would receive 10% of those 225 weeks, which would be 22 and a half weeks of benefits. If the ratings to the body as a whole, you're looking at a total of 300 weeks of benefits for a 100% impairment to your body as a whole, which nobody has. So if you had a 10% rating to your whole body, then you would get 10% of that 300 weeks or 30 weeks of benefits. So basically, if your ratings to your upper extremity, you get 2.25 weeks of benefits for every 1% that you're rated. If it's to the whole body, you get 3 weeks of benefits for every 1% you're rated. Now, if you receive a rating to both the body as a whole and the upper extremity for the same injury, you're usually entitled to receive whichever rating would pay you more weeks of benefits. That can be important to know. Now, those permanent partial disability benefits do not start immediately when you're rated. If you're receiving wage loss benefits from workers' compensation, temporary total or temporary partial disability, then the permanent partial disability benefits won't be paid until the wage loss benefits end, either when you return to work or when those benefits run out. So if you're considering settlement of your case, that's one of the things that you need to factor into what you settle your case for, or your attorney needs to do that on your behalf. Factor in that you're going to receive those permanent partial disability benefits at some point in the future. I hope you found this video about permanent partial disability ratings for shoulder injuries helpful. If you have, please let me know that. The best way you can do that is by liking this video or giving it a thumbs up. If you want to see more videos from the Georgia Workers' Compensation video series, please visit our Perkins Studdard Workers' Compensation channel on YouTube. You can view all the videos from the Georgia Workers' Compensation video series there, and you can subscribe. You'll be notified of future videos as they come out. If you've got some specific questions about Georgia Workers' Compensation, either permanent partial disability or some other issue, I'd encourage you to reach out and schedule a free consultation with me. There's two easy ways that you can get that set up. The first is by contacting our office at the phone number on the bottom of the screen. And the second is by visiting our website, which is www.perkinslawtalk.com, and clicking and submitting the free consultation request form there. And someone from our office will contact you and get that consultation scheduled. I'd like to thank you again for watching this video today. I want to wish you the best of luck as you recover from your injury.